Mr. Sergeant at Arms.
Madam President, may I present the Honorable Doug Burgum, Governor of the great state of North Dakota, and First Lady Catherine Burgum and the Escort Committee.
Let the committee be received.
"38 years ago, in 1986, on this very same day, December 4th, lawmakers were gathered here in this very same room, much as we are today. Except as an organizational session, which you're enjoying now, the legislature in that 1986 December had been called back to Bismarck for a then special session by Governor George Sinner. The reason for that special session in an off legislative year? To make budget cuts, to pass revenue enhancements, which of course was a code word for raising taxes, to avoid ending the budget cycle with a $28 million deficit, which would be about $80 million in today's dollars. That budget emergency that occurred in 1986, of course, many of you remember, was in the wake of the devastating 1980s farm crisis. North Dakota's agriculture and energy industries were hammered with high interest rates, crippling debt. We had depressed farm values, farmers going out of business, farm auctions, plummeting oil prices that caused the state's oil boom and ag sectors to go bust. It was a time of scarcity. To cover that revenue shortfall, lawmakers gathered and raised the individual income tax to 14%, raised the state sales tax, and raised the state motor vehicle excise tax. Some of you might be too young to remember that. Maybe others are too old to remember it. I don't know. But I remember that era well. Our population was declining. Our educated youth was leaving the state in droves. As a young software entrepreneur, when no one had almost ever even heard of what software was, I was recruiting kids from across the state to either stay in North Dakota or return to North Dakota. We eventually had team members that hailed from over 220 different North Dakota cities and towns. A few years after that special session in 1986, during North Dakota's centennial, in 1989, I was asked to serve on a statewide coalition called Vision 2000. The mission of that organization was to strategize on how to stop the brain drain, reverse out-migration, and reinvigorate our economy. Fast forward to today, here in this chamber, that scarcity has been replaced with almost hard to believe incredible abundance. Innovation, which is the original source of American greatness, has flourished in North Dakota. And it's unlocked amazing opportunities for our industries and our citizens, and they have prospered. Yet, just 8 years ago, due to global forces beyond our control, North Dakota's economy faced a revenue crisis far greater than what they were gathering for in 1986. In December of 16, when we took office, we were facing a $1.7 billion revenue shortfall and the Dakota Access Pipeline protests. 71 days after we took office, we peacefully resolved the protest. And when we gathered here with many of you, instead of raising taxes, we made it through that year. And we made it through all 8 years of our administration without a single tax increase. In that first session with you back in January to May of 2017, when we assembled with the 66th legislature, we cut $1.7 billion from a $6 billion general fund budget. 27% cut, larger than any since the Depression, larger than any state in modern history to ever make that kind of cut. And in North Dakota, we didn't raise taxes. We didn't even consider it. And last spring, here in 2023, working with the 68th legislature, we passed the largest income tax reduction package in the state's history. Thank you all. Today, as we gather, our reserve funds are full and continue to grow to record levels. Our revenues for the biennium ending June 30th, 2025 are 11%, or $392 million ahead of forecast. Our ag and energy sectors, which form the bedrock of our economy, are strong, more diversified than ever. Yes, this is a time of true abundance in North Dakota. And you, as members of the 69th legislature, when you convene, you're facing perhaps the greatest levels of economic opportunity ever presented to any prior assembly in our state's 135-year history. So it's my distinct honor to present to you one last time the executive budget for 2025 and 2027 biennium. I'd like to begin by welcoming all that are gathered here today at the state capitol. Our new and returning legislators, our esteemed justices of the Supreme Court, First Lady Catherine, Lieutenant Governor Tammy Miller, Second Gentleman Craig Palmer, our outstanding statewide elected officials, fantastic cabinet leaders, dedicated state team members, and all fellow North Dakotans, including those enrolled members of the 5 tribes with whom we share geography. And of course, we've got many, many people joining us online. Thank you for joining us as well. Serving in elected office requires time, commitment, and a willingness to be in the arena on behalf of your fellow citizens. All of you understand that, and we have some folks here that are experiencing that for the first time this week. We'd like to welcome the 20 new elected legislators, both senators and representatives. If you could, the 20 new ones, a couple of you are coming back, 18 of you I think are new, but please stand and be welcome to the seat of state government. If you could stand, please, our newly elected and returning. We look forward to working with all of you in our final weeks. And of course, as we head to the finish line for our administration, want to say how much we've enjoyed working with our returning elected leaders, House Majority Mike LaFleur, Senate Majority Leader David Hogue, House Minority Leader Zach Ista, Senate Minority Leader Kathy Hogan, and your appropriations chairs, Senator Brad Beckedahl, Representative Don Vigasaw. It's been an honor to work with each of you. And of course, also, we've been honored to work with your new Speaker of the House, Robin Weiss, right here as well. Thank you all for your service. I'm here today to execute my constitutional duty to present information on the condition of the state, together with any recommended legislation, to you, the Legislative Assembly. We'd like to especially thank the Office of Management and Budget Director, Susan Sisk, and she's got a small and mighty and highly capable band of OMB analysts, as well as our cabinet leaders and their fiscal teams, our governor's office team, our statewide elected officials and their teams, and all the state agencies for participating in the strategy and budget review process that guided the recommendations that we offer today. This is a process that began over 11 months ago. We also want to thank the thousands of North Dakota team members from Team ND who every day they continue to deliver on our administration's purpose, which is summarized in 6 words: empower people, improve lives, and inspire success. The dedication of these North Dakota team members, their commitment and hard work makes it possible for the executive branch to deliver the programs and services approved by this body and deliver those to the citizens of our great state. Before I jump into the numbers, I must acknowledge this fall's historic wildfires. We have requested a major presidential disaster declaration to unlock federal aid to help communities recover from the more than $8 million in public infrastructure damage. Of course, as you know, this tragedy cost 2 individuals their lives, over 500 livestock, homes and homesteads and ranches lost. The damage would have been far greater if not for the incredible work of our firefighters, our first responders, emergency managers, many local fire departments, state agencies, including the North Dakota Forest Service, Department of Emergency Services, North Dakota National Guard, North Dakota Highway Patrol, some federal agencies, and others who battled the wildfires that began on October 5th, initially fueled by over 70-mile-an-hour winds. Their tireless efforts of these mostly volunteers to protect people, livestock, and property should inspire awe and pride in every North Dakotan. They deserve our deepest respect, and let's give them our thanks. Today marks the 10th time I've addressed this chamber. 4 budget addresses and 6 State of the State addresses, including 2 special sessions. This is my final opportunity to address all of you in this formal setting, and I've been asked to try to keep it under 1 hour. However, as a point of privilege, I've decided that I've got the microphone and I'm just going to talk as long as I want to today. But as I thought about saying that, I guess that there's some people in this chamber who think that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 8 years. So nothing new here. Throughout our administration, I've stressed something. I've learned more than after 30 years in the private sector, competing in one of the most competitive sectors, and that's technology, which is companies win, and now I know that states win by attracting 2 things, capital and talent. The meaning, you've got to attract business investment, and you've got to attract the talented workforce to execute on that. In an innovation economy, those 2 things, capital and talent, are keys to our economic success. And as governor, I'm keenly aware that every day we are competing with all other states for capital and talent. Capital and talent flows to the states with the highest return on investment, and the highest returns occur where you've got stable, friendly, low tax and low regulation states. And the following rankings speak to our current success. And all of you are part of this because the legislature has helped create this environment where we are attracting records of capital to our state. Record tens of billions of dollars of projects lined up that want to come to North Dakota. And when those people are making those decisions, the thing they're asking is, do we have the workforce to be able to execute? So I'm happy to report that in the 1980s, when we were working on Vision 2000, we were one of the oldest states. Today, we're the 3rd youngest state in the nation. We've got the nation's 3rd lowest employment this month. That comes out every month. Earlier this year, we had 5 consecutive months where we were the lowest in the nation. North Dakota was the lowest, and we bounce around between 1, 2, and 3, often, at or below right around 2%. Just by comparison, right now, one state that used to have it so easy, everybody wanted to move there, California, their unemployment's at 5.4%. They're 49th on the list that we're at the top of. We've also got the 3rd happiest workforce in the country, and I'm sure a lot of reasons why, because why wouldn't you be happy living here? We're the 2nd best state in the nation to raise a family. We're number 2 in fiscal stability, and very close to number 1. And we're the 2nd best state for education and childcare. Give yourselves a hand for that as well, because without the investments of this state, of this legislature, we're the number 1 state for business friendliness. Thank you for your business. We can all practice that. Anyway, and we're number 1 for infrastructure. This, without the legislature, there's no way we're not number 1 in legislature. I mean, what you have invested in capital projects, you'll hear more about this today, but I mean, you can tell when you drive into the state, you fly into the state, when you get here, you know that something is different. And we're number one in labor force participation. That's the percentage of people in our population that are off the sidelines and actually working. That's a huge thing, highest in the country, and not a surprise to any of you, but we're also the hardest working state in the country. When you add all that up together, you've got capital and talent coming our way, innovation happening, low tax, low regulatory. Guess what happens to our GDP, our gross domestic product, which is our GDP and per capita? We rank the top 6th in the nation. We're the highest among every state in the Midwest. We're the highest among every state in the Rockies. We're the highest in all the places that east of here that call themselves the Midwest but aren't west at all. And we've got a higher GDP per capita even than Texas. So I guess my conclusion is that not everything's bigger in Texas, I guess. We got better numbers there. Our population hit a record high of all time for North Dakota in our 135 years. And thanks to the recent report based on U.S. Census data, we know something else that's not only a record high, this has never happened in any of our lifetimes, which is we had the highest in-state, state-to-state migration on a percentage basis than any other state in the nation. North Dakota led the country with an in-state, people moving here from other places, of 1.76%. That's never happened before. This is the opposite of the brain drain. This is the brain gain, people coming here. And this means young people are staying and building families here. 45 states had a net migration rates below 1%. Ours was 1.76. 18 of our 50 states had negative migration, meaning more people were moving out than were moving in. And who's on the other end of that scale? High tax, high regulatory states. New York, state of New York, 50th, most out migration. This is a significant milestone for our state, especially when you consider that North Dakota is the only state in the country. The only one, we were the only one that had more people in 1930 than we did in 2010. We're the only one. People used to ask me, how is that possible that you would go 80 years and have less people? And I said, well, it was a team effort. But here we are as a team, and we're moving the other way, and people are choosing to move here because of our abundant opportunities, the low cost of living, the high quality of life. Every person in this chamber should be proud of the fact that you've played a role in reversing that trend and setting us on this path to growth. And you probably have experienced it personally, because I know more and more of you have got your kids and your grandkids that are staying here and choosing to return home. And that's great for all of us and great for our future. Our state's pro-business, low-tax, fiscally conservative approach and daily focus on innovation over regulation, it's paved the way for our current prosperity and the fiscal stability of which we rank so high in North Dakota. With that in mind, today we are proposing this strategy-driven budget that addresses, again, our number one barrier in our state to economic growth. It's still workforce, the workforce challenge. But workforce infrastructure includes the work that you've done in the past on childcare. It now is going to include the work that we have to do on housing and addressing our housing shortage, infrastructure, education, both K-12 and higher ed, research and development. Other priorities that we got to build on the progress we've made in growing and diversifying our economy. In addition, we've got to make sure that we bring everybody along, and in these efforts, we've been very intentional about engaging with our tribal partners. Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, the Mandan Hidatsa Rickarah, or MHA Nation, Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians, Spirit Lake Nation, and the Sistan Waptin Oyate. These are 5 sovereign nations with whom we serve geography, and I have to tell you, the toughest job in North Dakota as an elected official, it's not being a senator, representative, the governor, it's being a tribal chair. They've got an extra layer of federal regulation on top of them that we don't have. And we have to recognize that every enrolled member in these tribes is also a North Dakota citizen. And they want all the same things that we want: economic opportunity, good schools, quality health care, safe communities, and a brighter future for our children. Working with them, we've signed gaming compacts and oil tax revenue sharing agreements. We've enhanced child welfare, offered cybersecurity services in partnership when they've been attacked by foreign entities. We've collaborated on law enforcement jurisdiction, roads and water protection, as well as addiction and recovery services. And together we've fought and pushed back on the federal government. We also made the long overdue decision to display the 5 tribal flags here in the state capitol, a display that was made permanent by you, the legislature. Our tribal engagement has grown through understanding and mutual respect, and we encourage the 69th legislature to build on this momentum and continue to enhance our state tribal relations, which are going to grow stronger and stronger than ever. To deliver cost-effective services to our citizens and to treat our taxpayers like the customers they are, then one thing has to happen. Strategy must drive the budget. We can't have budget driving strategy. Strategy's got to drive the budget. So that's why we started 8 years ago with the strategic planning process, so strategy would drive budget. This last year, we've met with 73 agencies for strategy and budget reviews. We gave those leaders of those 73 agencies the opportunity to discuss their visions for the future, share their ideas about how to cut red tape and streamline government. The thousands of hours of work by those state agencies and over 70 meetings with Lieutenant Governor Miller, myself, the governor's office, NDIT, OMB, the people side, the human resources side of our government. We reviewed and reviewed over $4 billion of ideas, $4 billion of ideas, over 1,000 decision packages. But we didn't just wrap those all up and send them over here to you. We spent the last year prioritizing them for the strongest possible starting point for your budgeting and policy processes. We've narrowed that down to the best ideas out of those billions and the best projects that have the highest ROI for our citizens. And we've also cut red tape. We asked each agency to cut 3% out of their budgets before we even started dreaming about what we could do next. We've asked them to get rid of any of the mind-numbing, soul-sucking, irrelevant work that doesn't matter to any citizen, and they did that once again. Last session, these bodies passed 51 red tape reduction bills, and I think you're going to have an opportunity to do that again this year as we work together. So today we offer you a budget roadmap to continue down the path of even greater prosperity with, again, a focus on workforce. And we do that by supporting families and supporting healthy, vibrant communities, by investing in education, critical infrastructure, and will position North Dakota for even more long-term success. Our executive budget recommendations for this next year recommends increasing the general fund from $6.1 billion to $6.5 billion. Shockingly, amazingly, and unlike any other state in the country, that's still $343 million below what the record high general fund budget was way back in 2013 and 2015. North Dakota has maintained a steady and disciplined approach to fiscal management, with general fund expenditures increasing by less than 1.2% from 2017 to 2024. That is the second smallest increase in the nation. So we are true, the numbers are true to the fiscal conservative nature of North Dakota, and it's working as our economy grows. We're using a portion of the beginning balance in the over $4 billion from our 4 major tax types. We've constructed a fully funded general fund, includes only $600 million from oil and gas taxes, 0 transfers from the bank in North Dakota, 0 transfers from the state mill and elevator. Let those entities retain their earnings, use it to either reduce debt or strengthen their balance sheet, invest in their services where they get high ROI. $1 in either one of those institutions is producing return on invested capital in the mid-teens. It's a great place for that cash to remain. And our federal and special funds, and one other thing, no transfer from SIF either. No transfer from SIF, no transfer whatever. This is a general fund budget that stands alone without transfers needed at the end of the session. Federal and special funds, formula-driven increases in inflationary costs pushed our total proposed budget to just under $19.6 billion. And that's a slight decrease from the current budget, which you approved last time. So we're recommending essentially a flat budget, slight decrease from where we were last time. This financial outlook that we have today reflects our state's incredibly strong position. And wow, have we been blessed when we talk about investment. Between the State Investment Board, which is chaired by Lieutenant Governor Miller, the State Land Board, which I have the honor of chairing along with 4 statewide elected officials, Our state assets under management in various funds have doubled since we took office in 2017. They've doubled to $32.6 billion in all of these funds. The Land Board also oversees almost $2.5 billion of mineral and land value, which is not included in those financial numbers. So we're grateful to these boards, the teams, and the leadership at the Retirement Investment Office, known as RIO, Department of Trust Lands, their leadership and their team, and the legislators and elected officials who provide guidance and help set the allocation strategies for these assets. Because as these endowment funds grow, this is not cash laying around that legislature can spend. These are endowment funds for our future. And as those endowment funds grow, the earnings that they generate grow. And as the earnings they generate spin off, the more we can fulfill our commitments that we've made through our formulas to our schools and to our health care. And the more that we can lower taxes for our citizens. We can replace taxes with the funds, with the earnings coming off these funds. As these funds grow, we should absolutely continue down the path, taking steps, including in this legislature, to just incrementally moving our way to become the 10th state with no individual income tax. When we do that, thank you. The thing we need is workforce in our state. And if you tax income tax, you're taxing workforce. Energy states have figured this out. Texas, Wyoming, and Alaska all have zero income tax. Our neighbor, South Dakota, zero income tax. These are states that we compete directly with for workforce. On our military bases, people that may get assigned to Grand Forks or Minot, when they sign up, they don't sign up to become a North Dakota citizen. They sign up to become a Texas citizen, even if they're deployed here, because they pick a state that has zero income tax. Real tax relief. Real tax relief. That means actually reducing the taxes collected. It doesn't mean redistributing somebody's taxes to somebody else and then calling it relief. It means actually reducing the revenue. We keep the money in the hands of the citizens. And that's a goal that's worth pursuing every day. And with our financial success, you have an opportunity here to continue to take us down that path. You helped last session. Working with you, we delivered one of the largest tax relief packages in the history of state. We took a significant step towards eliminating individual income tax. Combine that with the income tax credit we passed during the special session in November of 2021. This legislature has provided more than $570 million in income tax relief in the last 3 years. That's money that stayed in the hands of our citizens, hardworking citizens. They weren't just people that were living here. They weren't just people that own property here. They weren't people that own property here but don't live here. They were people that were working here in our state, driving our economy forward. We want more of that. So we incent that by reducing their taxes. This proposed budget includes the significant income tax relief we approved last session, which effectively eliminated income taxes for 3 out of 5 North Dakotans. And if those 3 out of 5 were here, they would want to say thank you. So thank you, legislature, for taking that burden off of our North Dakota's hardworking taxpayers. We also, last session, approved $157 million of additional, I say additional because we're already doing over $5.5 billion of subsidies to local political subdivision. But we did 157, but it was targeted. That property tax relief went specifically to people relative to the homestead tax credit. I understand there's over 50 property tax bills that have been introduced. Most of those that are coming this session aren't relief. They weren't narrowly targeted like the work that this body did last time with the homestead tax credit, which helps seniors and those with disabilities to stay in their homes. The $5.5 billion that we send to local political subdivisions, most of it's distributed through a shotgun approach to supplant, local spending. But we have no control over how that money gets spent once we send it out. When we look at the big picture, more than $5 billion in state funds are dedicated this biennium again in this budget, covering the costs of local K-12 education. We used to do 20%, now we do almost 80% of K-12. Has that helped lower property taxes? No. We've picked up a bigger share. Some other group is deciding how to spend it. They buy dinner, we pick up the tab. County social services, direct assistance at other local subdivisions, municipalities, counties, townships. If we're calling it relief, we're taking the taxes from one part of our state, like the oil-producing region, and sending it to another. If we're doing tax relief for people that aren't working, we're taking income taxes from people that work and giving it to people that may not be working. It's a transfer of these subsidies from rural areas to urban areas, because if you want to do tax relief on property tax, where's most of the property tax? It's in the large metro areas. Some of those large metro areas have got things like park boards that have spent more money, on buildings than any of our universities have without a vote. You folks would never approve a $120 million athletic facility at any one of our 11 universities and say fine without a vote, but we got park districts that are doing that. So I'm just going to challenge all of you right now to just, pump the brakes a little bit here and actually ask yourself, we don't need this so-called relief. We don't need to be providing more subsidies. If we do anything, it's got to be reform. And one thing you can do, because income taxes are uniform across the whole state, property taxes vary by every city, by every county. And even in your districts, I would challenge most of you, in your district, property tax is not the same, even in the same communities within your district. So I have not yet seen a proposal that allows us to do something that isn't largely unfair when it's just a redistribution of money. So the legislature can't fix this problem with a blanket approach. Property taxes are set at the local level by local decision makers. Current and past proposals to eliminate and reduce property taxes have simply been redistribution schemes, using tax money from one group of taxpayers to pay another's bills. And we know, because of what we hear, for many parts of our state, it has not effectively lowered property taxes. So given the wild disparities in local spending and tax rates, I just have to say, as I head out here, it's time for the legislature to stop feeling that it's your responsibility to pick up the tab. Stop blindly subsidizing decisions made at the local level and start seeking actually true reform. In 2017, my first time in this chamber, I walked in here and I highlighted how the state's 12% property tax buy-down program redistributed tax dollars but failed to address those underlying disparities. It hasn't changed since 8 years ago. We're still repeating the same mistakes. Well, not intentionally. The programs that we have actually incentivized, in some location, local spending at unsustainable levels. True tax reform requires a deeper, more balanced approach to ensure fairness. And true tax relief is actually lowering the revenue coming into the state government, not grabbing tax dollars and redistributing it. So one thing, as this assembly appropriately debates property tax, I want to say there's only one thing about property tax in our budget. There's $5 million for a property tax transparency effort built around a website where citizens in our state would click on a link and they would type in their own address and they would go to that location, and in that location you type in your address and it would tell you, here's your property taxes. Here's what you pay to your local park board, here's what you pay to your local school board, here's what you pay to the local county government. You would see what's there, you'd see how it had increased over time, you'd understand what a mill was in your house location, because it may, again, vary across your district. You'd go there and you would understand it. And then next to it, it would have the phone numbers of all the people on the park board. It would have the phone numbers of the people on the city commission. It would have the phone numbers of the county commission and the township board. And it would say, please, if you don't like the mill rates and the raises that they've made, call these people. And then in giant letters, and my favorite part, in giant letters, it'll say, if you don't like your property taxes, call one of these folks. Do not contact your legislature. Your legislature is providing $5.5 billion of property tax relief already. And if you don't like the size of state government has grown because we're taking dollars and moving to local political subs. And to say, legislature, don't call them. Call these other folks. So that's what we'd like to do. We need this, and we need it quickly, because then if we had it, then people, when you're out knocking on doors, you could just hand out the website. People could go there and say, hey, here, if it is, because there's decisions being made locally that are driving up property taxes. So just remember this axiom. If we want less of something, tax it. If you want less workforce coming to North Dakota, then keep taxing income. If you want more of something, if you want more spending at the local level, you subsidize it. And that's what we're doing. We're taxing what we want, which is workforce. We're subsidizing what we don't want, which is more local spending. So, simple thing. You want more of it? Subsidize it. You want less of it? Tax it. You guys will get it figured out. Education. School district tax levies. This 20% they're still paying is key. Gives the school board, gives them skin in the game. We have 175 school boards making decisions. When it comes to the education system in their community, it's going to vary. It's going to vary based on, growing, shrinking, rural, urban, what the citizens want to spend on their facilities or not. And just as they invest in children's education, the state has demonstrated our commitment, incredible commitment to student success through the substantial investments and a collaborative effort to drive innovation at K-12. No one's door you can knock on can say that the state of North Dakota has not been there in a huge way. The Innovation Education Task Force, which we created through executive order in 2017, it paved the way for groundbreaking policies and programs like the Learn Everywhere program, which gave credit to the things that we know, hands-on, real-world, certificate-based programs like 4-H and FFA and Boys and Girl Scouts. The merit badge programs, all of those things can be credited towards high school graduation. The graduation pathways, all of these giving the locals, the districts, the flexibility to enhance student-centered personalized learning. We have some districts. Northern Cass, I can cite them. They won a national award last year, number 2 in the country, $500,000 grant that a rural school in North Dakota got for being one of the most innovative schools in the country. They were taking every tool, every law that you passed, and they put it into work. That's fantastic. Only about 10 to 15% of our 175 school districts have adopted all the flexibility and innovation that you've given them. We don't have enough. These are great tools. The tools work if you have the right leadership. But too few schools have adopted them. Kids that are going to those schools are having a differentiated, better, more exciting, more engaging, more valuable education than some that are still doing something that's very familiar. And I've shadowed students sitting in a desk and waiting for the bell to ring. It feels a lot like it did many years ago. But I would challenge those districts, if you haven't taken advantage of these tools, to take the leap, jump in. Those that have gone ahead of you will help you do that. But what we need is more competition. We need more reason for people to have to try to do things differently. And when we've invested in this system, funding on the per pupil payment alone has increased by $420 million during our time in office. The student population during that time has increased by 8,000. We have 8,000 more K-12 students in the public system. And we've worked to correct the inequities within the K-12 school funding formula that directly impact instruction and public school operations. Last session, we made sure that all school districts that were underfunded by the per pupil payment were put on the formula. Thank you. We also implemented one-time funding, eliminating that lag time between when a student starts and when we start paying that local school district the funding to educate them. That was a huge lift for our fast-growing school districts like Williston and Watford and West Fargo. For the next biennium, I would encourage those of you working in education just to rip off the Band-Aid. We've been slowly slogging our way with these things called the transition minimum adjustments. Let's just get rid of those. This will ensure fairness in the funding that school districts receive from the formula, regardless of how big or how small they are. And this is another way to ensure that every state dollar is being used to effect. But with the increases that we're putting in this year, we're going to have the funding formulas more than $11,000 per student. Do the quick math. This is like paying tuition for every kid in our state from first grade through 12th grade. All of you are chipping in $11,000 per year per student. And you divide that by 180 days and you get a number that's over $250 a week, over $60 a day that you're paying for kids' education in North Dakota from here. 100% of that's property tax relief. So way to go, legislature. But whether it's in education, software, or business world in general, we know that competition is good. It forces competitors to constantly improve their products, measure their outcomes, or risk losing your customers to someone who's doing it better, faster, and cheaper. We continually hear that parents want more choice in education, which in North Dakota is largely a captive market, particularly in rural areas. In response to these market demands, our budget proposes $50 million for educational savings account, ESAs, on top of the publicly funded K-12 education system I've already described. During our last interim, legislators and stakeholders discussed ways to expand educational opportunities and provide more choice to students and student families. That debate, I know, will continue again in this session. But our administration, along with you, we've also advocated for school choice. I know that there's ideas that are coming around public charters. You should pay close attention to that. This ESA program, which is in our budget, would provide families with a menu of approved options to access direct services that expand learning, support areas of academic need, provide behavioral health program, and other pre-approved choices. So if you've got a low-income family and they can't afford the art fee, the band fee, they can't afford to go on a school trip, you've got your ESA funding, and every student in the state could take funds out of that if it was on the approved list and say, I can participate in this. If you have a child like we did that was identified with a dyslexia and you need a specialized reading program, you go to your ESA fund and you can use that. So this goes to the student, not to the institution. This goes to the student, the family, the parents can choose how to use these dollars for pre-approved list of educational things. These are coming across the country. This would be an exciting differentiator. I think it could even help us recruit people to come to North Dakota. But this is about ensuring that every student has what they need to support a pathway for them that will take them either to a career, a college, or to military readiness. And we're going to recommend that you work to develop a program that drives this ESA forward to continue putting North Dakota on the map for serving all students, and that includes public, private, and homeschool. Thank you to everybody that worked on the interim on this ESA idea. Some exciting opportunities that are coming. Special shout out to Michelle Axman right there. So. Career academies, wow, you guys have been fantastic. During the special session in November of 2021, we didn't need those funds for the pandemic. Our businesses were open. We had kids in school. We had extra dollars that other states were using on pandemic related. We got approval to be able to use those for CTE. The legislature approved matching funds from the private sector. We went into high gear. 13 career and technical centers modeled after the one here in Bismarck that was so successful, are either opened or are underway. There's 13 career academies. If you haven't toured one, if there's one near you, I encourage you to get out and see one. I got to the Dickinson one this fall, the Watford City one earlier this year. Dickinson, they have 2,800 classes in the opening semester. 2,800 classes. That's students taking classes. Over 2 classes per student, so 1,400 kids from 8 school districts in there learning all kinds of exciting stuff. And there's success stories all around. We know we've got a healthcare shortage. Sarah Stieg, she's Montana transplant. Her family moved to North Dakota. She's a senior at Watford City High School. She leveraged the Bakken Area Skills Center. It's right across the street from the Watford City High School. She in high school got her CNA license while she was in high school, utilizing state-of-the-art equipment and training. She's ready to go. We know we're short of CNAs. Her entire class passed their CNA on their first attempt. Now she works 2 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. She's earning class credit for working, and she's getting wages, getting ahead. This is while she's still in high school. So on behalf of SACHA and these thousands and thousands of students, the educators, the employers that are benefiting from career academies, to all of you here in the legislature, one more time, I say thank you. Give yourselves a hand. You're making a big impact right there. And like K-12 education, higher education, North Dakota has received robust support from this legislature and our administration over the past 8 years. Total ongoing funding for higher ed has increased nearly $100 million just from the state side of things. There's also been increases in tuition, increases in research dollars, so their budgets have grown by more than that, but that's a direct support. Headcount enrollment in the system is increased by over 1,800 students in the past 3 years. But if you dig into those numbers, a lot of that increase is due to online high school dual credit students. This is something that's I'm going to ask you to take a look at, there's a revenue opportunity here. We pay the K-12 for a student hour credit, and we pay the colleges for a student credit, and if you're a parent, sometimes you have to pay a fee. So I'm not saying that we're triple dipping, but we've got to figure out a way to make that more efficient, and we can't, keep building bigger and bigger campuses and then claim that our growth in students is coming from kids that aren't even there in high school that are taking an online class. So we just have to face the reality. Higher education continues to face I call it the four horsemen, but it's economic, demographic, technological, and cultural changes. Those that know me know this is not a new thing. I was saying this before I was governor. Our institutions, those four forces are coming hard. They got accelerated during the pandemic. We must embrace innovation. We must embrace change. That includes stackable credentials as opposed to just 4-year or 2-year degrees. Things that align with workforce demands, providing access to learning when and where students want it. That includes evenings and weekends. We have to generate new revenues and partnerships rather than relying solely on the students, their tuition, and on the taxpayers. And this is, like I said, not a new message. Some of our institutions and leadership are grasping this and running with it, and they're making a difference, and they're going and growing. But we've got to get the whole system moving. And one thing that we're doing and putting out there as an incentive is challenge grants again. These are programs where we match $1 of public funding with every $2 of private funding, and it can be used for scholarships, endowed chairs, research, education, and technology. Write the language so they can use it for transformation work as well. But we recommend that we've got that recommended in the executive budget, that $30 million from us, which would drive over $90 million in investment to help keep driving the change. Some of you may remember at the start of our administration 7 years ago, we created a task force that proposed changes to the higher ed governance structure. Our higher ed governance structure was created in 1939 in reaction to a governor at that time firing some professors at a university. It created essentially this kind of fourth branch of government that we have. And we have the same essentially 7-person board structure plus 1 student that we had coming up on 80 years old system. In those days, we had 5,000 students. Now we've got 45,000 students. This is an outdated governance structure. So I challenge all of you to think again when you're thinking about funding for higher ed. It's not just inputs. It's how do we create an institution and a set of institutions and a system that can respond to these unstopping challenges that are hitting them. And we've got to create a modern higher education governance structure, something that supports innovation, supports leadership, embraces flexibility, leverages the skills, the talents of our alumni and our resources wherever they may live. By doing so, we can promote shared services and collaboration, better align our campuses with our workforce needs, and know that they're really pulling to help move North Dakota forward. Under workforce, we've made great strides in addressing our workforce needs, and we know that, again, as we said, the continuous challenge we have, our number one barrier to economic growth. Economic growth means more revenue, for the state. It's workforce, number one challenge. It's important because a robust workforce allows economic expansion, strengthening our communities, and all the things that we need to do, and whether that's creating great local communities with hospitals and street maintenance. When you've got more people there living in the same space, you got more people sharing in the cost of building and strengthening that local community. The good news is that North Dakota, our labor force is growing. We've grown by over 9,200 workers since 2017. And the number of unemployed individuals dropped by almost 50%. So it's dropped during that period of time. And our unemployment rate, it's almost 2 points lower than we took office 4 years ago. And as I said earlier, nation leading, number one in the country, labor participation rate of 69%. Our state continues to demonstrate strong workforce engagement. We need to build on this success, including support for automation and innovation. We're not going to be able to get every person we need to move to North Dakota, but one thing to consider is more automation tax credits, because we may not need, if we can't find 100 welders, with these CTE programs, we got 10 kids that'll come out and they know how to run robotic welders, and they can do the work of 100 welders. But the company needs to have the incentive to buy the robotic welder. It's a capital investment versus a labor investment. So we need to think about how do we up productivity in the private sector and support that. This includes, in addition to this, includes re-upping elements of last session's historic child care package, which has led to a net increase of over 1,000 child care slots. We've got child care providers have more space to enroll than ever before, and that includes care for infants and toddlers. In the last year, grants from the Grow Child Care program helped expand child care businesses. A bunch of those new spaces, 40% of them are children under 3. Approximately 6,400 kids and their families are now better able to afford quality care, in part because of the state's investment. Getting people off the sidelines and into the workforce if they want to be, because they have the opportunity for affordable and high quality and accessible child care. Those state grants are also helping those small business providers invest in their facilities for safety and for training. They're able to access assistance when caring for children with special needs, and they're seeing financial benefits for investments in quality. This is all because of the work that you as policymakers have done to demonstrate that in North Dakota that we understand that child care is a workforce infrastructure issue. We also know there's more to do on workforce. Our budget continues investments made last time. $53.8 million total workforce package, which includes $19 million to support the DHHS child care initiatives. We must continue to take bold steps to ensure that quality child care is available when and where working families need it. Housing, just like child care, it's workforce infrastructure. I'm sure that many of you know people, we know it here at the state of North Dakota, we've given out offers to people to come to work here at state government in Bismarck. They say yes, and then they come to Bismarck and they look for a house and they can't find one that they can afford. And then they say no, and we have an unfilled position. This is happening all over. We don't have enough construction workers to build new homes. We don't have enough variety of housing. We don't have senior housing for people to move out of when they are downsizing. So we got older couples living in 2 and 3 and 4 bedroom houses and young families that can't move into those. So we've got a whole set of things. This 11-month work that we did to create the housing package was designed to address the housing accessibility, affordability, and stability, and to help remove housing as a barrier to workforce and a barrier to in-migration. The work that we have going forward includes, we announced all this a couple weeks ago, and it's in this package. That $95 million is spread across a number of things. One of those includes the $30 million for HIF, which is the Housing Incentive Fund. That's a fantastic program. And again, what we have to do is do everything we can to remove housing as a workforce barrier. We're grateful for the work of the Housing Initiative Advisory Committee that we appointed earlier this year. It included members from across the state, and it also included Representatives Belts and Schauer. Thank you both. Senators Rummel and Beckedahl also worked on that. Great help. I know that there are going to be resources here as we try to move a housing package through. North Dakota's housing challenges have become more urgent as our state continues to grow and evolve. Home values and rents have risen significantly. That's placing increased burdens on many households. And as the state faces a critical shortage of affordable housing. All told, all in, think about this number at a time when many of you are used to us living in an era of scarcity. There are some estimates that in the next 4 years, we're going to need over 20,000 new housing units in North Dakota across the state, 20,000. Those could be apartments, those could be homes, those could be all across the whole spectrum of low to high. But the housing package improves funding for innovative housing approaches such as gap financing for new single and multifamily homes, leveraging the North Dakota Housing Incentive Fund. The package will grow the construction worker pipeline. It's going to cut red tape and support vibrant housing initiatives. One of the things we learned in those housing roundtables was that the cost of building a house in North Dakota, that 10% of the cost is sometimes driven by unnecessary local regulations. So again, big opportunity for red tape. We can still have safe homes and safe communities, but not adopt regulations that come from international or national standards that make no sense here in North Dakota. By building in a smart, efficient manner and maximizing the use of existing infrastructure and housing stock, we can lift housing affordability, accessibility, and stability, increase workforce participation, and of course, if we build those homes in places where we've got existing infrastructure, we're also lowering the burden of property taxes on everybody because there are more people on the numerator helping to pay for the denominator cost of the streets, the roads, the sewer, and the schools. Other recommendations to address workforce include a combined $22.5 million for the Successful Regional Workforce Import Program, or RWIP. It's funded 111 projects across the state, as well as the Find the Good Life Workforce Attraction Campaign. The budget also continues funding for the Office of Legal Immigration and the tech skills and training grants. And we know that legal immigration is critical for the agricultural sector. That I think this last year we had more than 3,000 workers that came here from South Africa. Some have been coming for 20 years, but without them, we wouldn't even have got the harvest off this fall. These are highly qualified individuals that work in agriculture in the Southern Hemisphere for half the year. They come and work here. They've got their CDLs. They have their education, English speaking. They got everything we need to help us here. Speaking specifically to our workforce and state government, our great team members, past and present, we propose a $200 million transfer coming from SIF and oil tax revenues to the Public Employees Retirement System. This is going to go to further address our unfunded pension liability. This is part of our solemn commitment to those that have worked at the state of North Dakota over their lifetimes, that when we made the courageous and smart and highly economic decision to close the defined benefit pension plan. That takes effect this January 1. We made a commitment that we would continue to make deposits into that to ensure its long-term financial ability. $200 million is what you did last time. We're recommending you do it again. This is going to help us save money down the road by closing that unfunded liability gap. It's going to save taxpayers millions of dollars in the long run while we meet our pension obligation to the retired members of Team ND. Our recommended total comp package for current team members in North Dakota calls for performance increases of 4% in the first year and 3% in the second year, and no change effectively to the existing health care plan. There's some small little modifications, but again, health care costs continue to go up. Those costs are 7% each year, over the biennium, 15%. Tourism is a key part of our economy. And we know that if we want to keep attracting and retaining workers, we need healthy, vibrant communities, we need amenities, we need activities, we need destinations that contribute to our high quality of life. The people that we're competing to get here have an opportunity to live in other states that have fantastic outdoor recreation opportunities, and that's one thing that always is part of people's decision. People like to live in places that they would think, hey, that's a place I want a vacation. That's why we created the Office of Community Development and Rural Prosperity last January to support smart and strategic community planning and build on our progress these past 8 years under the Main Street Initiative, but with a dedicated focus on the challenge and opportunities facing our rural communities. Late last year, we proposed, the legislature approved, a plan to elevate the beautiful Pembina Gorge State Recreation Area into North Dakota's 14th state park, with a modern campground, part of a broader effort to improve parks statewide, which you also have put dollars into. But if you haven't had a chance to visit the Pembina Gorge in your lifetime or to see the site that's going to be the new state park, we encourage you to do that. You also supported the Destination Development Grant last year for the first time, and we proposed the legislature, again, funding this at $25 million in matching funds. Last year, the thing had such huge demand signal. We received a request to fund over 81 projects around the state at $151 million in 42 communities. We were able to only do 13 of those grants that were awarded, and all of those are having an impact across our state, from Minot to Bismarck to upgrading ski resorts. Our budget for next biennium also increases the available matching funds to $30 million to respond to the strong demand signal to support people to build out destinations. This year also we became the 22nd state in the country to establish an Office of Outdoor Recreation. It'll be led by Parks and Rec, Fish and Game and Tourism, with an explicit goal to grow our outdoor recreation economy by strengthening partnerships with private sector vendors and suppliers and increasing collaboration among all stakeholders, including local communities. We've also partnered with Canada to upgrade the International Peace Garden, secured an initial state commitment to add a publicly and privately funded military history wing at the North Dakota State Heritage Center, and we've, of course, championed the development of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library in the Badlands, which is, from the private sector, now raised, I think, over $300 million for that project, which is on time to open in the summer of 2026. This world-class attraction will draw visitors from across the nation and beyond. And this is especially exciting as we look ahead to 2026 because North Dakota has an opportunity to play an outsized role in the celebration of America's 250th birthday. The opening of the TR Library has been named one of the United States' featured USA 250 events. It's right now the only one of those events that was set up in the entire Midwest. And with the recent announcement coming on November 6th of the idea of the Great American State Fair in Iowa, where all states will be invited to participate, our budget includes dollars to help organize, plan, and create celebrations across our state at our heritage center, at our heritage sites, and our historic sites, and our state parks, and across our cities. And it's also, there's an additional dollars to ensure that North Dakota is well represented at the National State Fair in Iowa, the Great American State Fair. Our nation's birthday is a reminder of the military service that veterans and their families who have served and sacrificed so much, and we have a duty to show our gratitude for their service and respect. And that's why we've worked so hard to make North Dakota the most military-friendly state in the nation. We've done it not just through words, but through action that's supported by this legislature, including the work that we've done on tax relief. The work that's been done there has been fantastic. Tax exemptions on military pay, occupational licensing reform for trailing spouses, expanded services for justice-involved veterans. And in this budget, we further recommend honoring our military with continued support of the North Dakota Military Gallery, which will be a place for everyone to reflect upon, honor, and celebrate the men and women who fight for our freedom. And if we could right now, if you have served or are currently serving, if you could rise and please stand, we'd like to recognize you. Veterans. We're also a stronger nation in a state when we diversify our economy, and that's been a passion of ours these past 8 years. From the innovators and entrepreneurs who staked out our leadership position in UAS, supported by this legislature even back in the early 2000s, the autonomous ag sector, which has come more recently, the surge of our ability to build out data centers here that'll help America win the AI arms race. We continue to diversify and make our state less vulnerable to the volatile commodity markets of agriculture and energy. Tens of billions of dollars in projects have expressed interest in coming to North Dakota, a record. I think at one time here we had identified over $60 billion of projects that Commerce was tracking. To get those folks here, the ones that are actively pursuing permits and financing, is that we've got to continue investing. We've also supported manufacturing expansion, such as extending a natural gas service to Bobcat in winter in 2017. New natural gas line just opened up down to Wahpeton recently, and they're excited down there about what that can mean. And of course, we've got other exciting global leaders, growing industries in our state, like biotech leader Aldevron. But here's an interesting data point. All of these industries need power, and while our state's electric generation has increased by 11% since 2016, our electricity exports have actually decreased. That may seem odd, but that's in some ways a good thing, because it means that more of our electricity that we're producing is being consumed right here to fuel our economic growth and our value-added industry. But unfortunately, As you all know, North Dakota's energy sector and the ability to produce baseload electricity, as well as our oil and gas resources, we've been under attack for the last 4 years by the current federal administration. As the nation's number 3 oil-producing state, we're currently battling more than 30 rules and regulations that threaten not only our oil and gas industry, but our baseload electrical industry and its ability to deliver affordable, reliable energy to our customers and to our industries. We appreciate the legislature's ongoing support for these legal battles, and we appreciate our Attorney General, Rude Wrigley, and his leadership. In some of these cases, North Dakota is the lead with over 24 other states signed on behind us as we fight the federal government. But we look forward to the next 4 years where we believe that there's going to be a shift towards innovation over regulation and an opportunity for North Dakota and our mineral owners to be able to more quickly and easily get permitting to access those natural resources for our country. The shutdown of baseload generation puts our country and all of us at risk of blackouts and brownouts. This is premature to shut that down. We should be pursuing energy addition, not just energy transition. And we should be pursuing that energy addition for our national security, our global stability, and our economic diversification. Ensuring that our economic development project list comes to fruition will require additional strategic investment, and our budget supports programs, many of them which have been conceived and implemented and pushed forward by members that are still part of this body. And those are things that include the LIFT Research Fund, dollars for autonomous ag, the Clean Sustainable Energy Grants, and money for the North Dakota Development Fund. All of these organizations are helping to drive innovation forward, and it gives our state more tools in the toolbox to compete when we're attracting businesses here. A shining example of our state's winning vision is the Northern Plains UAS test site and the Vantas project, which is building out the nation's best and finest air traffic control system to be used in manned and unmanned airspace. Over the past 8 years, North Dakota has strategically invested in Grand Sky and the UAS test site, building a robust ecosystem for unmanned aircraft systems. These efforts have solidified our position as a leader in UAS innovation and operation. And through the development of Vantas, the nation's first statewide network enabling beyond visual line of sight flights, North Dakota is poised to become the epicenter of commercial UAS activity in the USA. It's critical that unmanned aerial systems infrastructure, which is what this is like building roads and bridges and highways, and I think Vantas stands alone in its scale and capability in the country, working with the systems integrator Thales to explore new frontiers. And this budget provides dollars to keep Vantas at the forefront. It also supports Grand Sky infrastructure with a $5 million commitment, increases the test site, and most importantly, takes advantage of a new strategic partnership. I want to give a shout out to Representative Mike Nathy. And Mike, thank you for your leadership. We urge, he'll be introducing a bill. We urge this to be one of the first bills passed in the first week in January to fast track both the drone replacement, get rid of all of our Chinese drones, and $11 million for an FFA data investment. We're not paying for the data, but we're paying for the cybersecurity that would allow the FFA to entrust North Dakota and Vantas being the only organization in the country that would have access to the FFA data, which includes every single flight that's in the air at any time. This is a terrorist dream to get access to that data. We have to have the security to be able to protect that data. If we do that, we'll be the only project in the country that has that. When we have that, we can build a lead with Vantas where we can then start selling Vantas to other states and other folks that are saying we need this capability. The over $100 million that you folks have all invested into UAS over the last decade, there's an opportunity for us to get that back multiple fold because we could have an equity stake in a software company that's got something that the rest of the world is demanding, which is an air traffic control system that manages manned and unmanned. But right now, we need $11 million, or some other state is going to end up with the FAA data, not us. So that's a high priority. I'm coming here and asking. We would have done it with executive order, but we couldn't figure out a way to get it done legally. So we're counting on you, because this is a deal we should have signed 2 months ago, and we want to get that thing signed in the first week in January, both the bill and the contract with the FAA. Through these bold investments, we're securing North Dakota's leadership in UAS and safeguarding our national interests for today and tomorrow. On the infrastructure, you guys have been great investing in this. That's why we're number one in the country. And our teams, both in water and roads specifically, of looking at 10-year infrastructure maps, that's the foundation of our economy, our way of life. We've invested heavily in the past 8 years to ensure that we're second to none. And as we said earlier, U.S. News and World Report re-ranked us number one in the country. And with that strong support from the legislature, our state's invested $3.6 billion in nearly 1,500 transportation infrastructure projects since 2017, making our roads safer than ever before and making it easier for our industry. If we continue to build momentum, we recommend continuing the highly successful Flexible Transportation Fund. You committed $171 million. That's what the number is that comes out of the half of the motor vehicles and sales tax. They use that money, the DOT does. Oftentimes, $2 from the state of North Dakota can lead to $8 from the federal government. These are 80%, 20% matches. And we want to be able to have not only that, but also a second Department of Transportation matching funds to help win discretionary grants from the feds. On the water side, 2017, we've committed over $2 billion in state funding as more than $3.5 billion in total water project infrastructures. For those people that want to compare to South Dakota spends zero state money on local water projects. The $2.1 billion we have gets us better infrastructure, and it lowers the burden on the local property taxpayers. And these aren't all just big projects. These are hundreds of projects around the state. But on the big ones, we've worked to complete the funding for the Fargo-Moorhead diversion, which will protect over $60 billion of property when it gets completed in 2027. Supporting rural water initiatives like Southwest Pipeline, Northwest Area Water Supply, jumpstarting the Red River Water Supply Project, ensuring reliable water access for the future generations, getting water out of the Missouri to the eastern part of the state, which has been a dream for 60 years because of Garrison. We're so close to having that happen. And we know that if we have to keep moving, because downstream interests will always be interested in those water rights. Together, these investments will protect 27 cities from a flood thing, with a combined 462,000 people in 37 water districts. Nearly 60% of our state's population will be covered by some of these large projects. Continuing this progress is critical for our citizens, economy, and environment. And this budget recommends investing $435 million from the Resources Trust Fund to support $129 million for flood control, Minot, Mandan, Bismarck, Valley City, and other communities, as well as $238 million for water supply projects. It also provides $46 million for the rural water project needs, $20 million for municipal. On the airport front, we know that these are critical to our future as well. Those airports in North Dakota contribute over $1.6 billion annually to our state's economy and support over 30,000 jobs. In 2024, we're on track to set the all-time high record-breaking air travel numbers, over 2.4 million passenger days projected to pass through just our 8 commercial airports. We know that that's how we connect our markets with global markets. And we know that the aeronautics team has identified $1.2 billion of infrastructure needs over the next decade. This specifically supports new primary runway for Grand Forks, efforts for the terminal and runway work at Fargo, new terminal for Dickinson. That's all totaling $120 million. All of that is in our budget. On AI and mainframes, during this administration, we've experienced a fundamental shift in the power of technology, and artificial intelligence is transforming our world. It's going to transform every job, every industry, and state government must transform with it. We've got to be prepared to harness the power safely and responsibly to increase efficiency and productivity and shift away from more tedious and mundane tasks and let computer systems do that. This budget can help us get started down that path, and we propose allocating $15 million to advance AI technology and utilization across education, literacy, and workforce development of our state team members, and to enhance the AI tool sets and compute capacity across the state. And while some are using the newest and latest technology, Our state, unfortunately, is still addressing some of the oldest technology. Our administration has made major progress with your help on retiring antiquated mainframe computers. We had 3 when we started. With this budget proposal, I'm thrilled to say that we will no longer have mainframes computers at the state of North Dakota. And that would have been an outstandingly great headline if it would have happened in 1998. But it's 2024. And I'm recommending that the last mainframe, when it's retired, just be moved directly over to the Heritage Center as a display on the history of computing. It's a miracle. This could be one of the last one of its kind running in the world. So we'll have to have a retirement ceremony, change of command. And by the way, every cell phone that you have in your pocket has got more power than this thing that we're retiring. And it's somehow made it into all 4 of my budget addresses. But here we are. We're at the finish line. Thank you. We also have got dollars in there to eliminate other tech debt, update technology, and again, we want to make sure that we're making it easy for our citizens to interact with state government. They can't be coming to 157 different websites. That's why the funding is on the way to build a business gateway, which we're doing with the Secretary of State, one-stop shop, a citizen portal. We're going to create a consumer-like, think Amazon if you want to, experience for citizens interacting with the state through the citizen portal. And so if you're buying a fishing license, a hunting license, registering a boat, have a driver's license, a kid in school, every time you show up, we won't be like, who are you? Please enter your stuff. We'll actually know you live here, you've been paying stuff, you participate, you got a driver's license or fishing license before. That's going to be a fantastic experience, but the dollars are in the budget to keep driving towards that. Corrections. Right now, North Dakota is experiencing intense pressure on our corrections system. It's being felt from local jails all the way up to our largest facilities. Our DOCR and rehabilitation team is currently exceeding capacity for both men and women. That's a challenge. The root cause of this, of course, is that we're continue to face an epidemic of the disease of addiction and behavioral health issues, and over 80% of the people that we have in our care through DOCR have either struggled or are still involved with behavioral health or the brain disease of addiction. To address these, the state and local capacity challenges in the long term, our budget proposes funding for planning, design, and initial construction of a new 600-resident Missouri River Correctional Center here in Bismarck. We've also included $36.5 million to complete the much-needed Heart River Women's Transformational Center in Mandan, which you funded last time, and there was a piece left over that you'd left for this time. That's the $36.5 million. On behavioral health and addiction, over the past 8 years, we've engaged in a coordinated effort to improve behavioral health access in North Dakota. The state's made great strides in expanding services and developing new programs, and we know the needs continue to grow amid our nation's mental health crisis. We've worked to increase understanding the science of addiction and reducing the stigma and increasing access to services. And we're grateful the legislature has engaged and identified solutions and championed these important new programs. I'd like to take a moment right now and offer my deepest appreciation to an individual who's used her voice and her personal story to advocate for recovery services and empower individuals to seek help. She's been representing North Dakota on the national stage for the last 18 months, and let me tell you, they love her just like I do, and she's made such an incredible impression. She's been a courageous and unyielding champion for North Dakota and all of our people, including those who've been trapped by the disease of addiction. And of course, I'm talking about our amazing First Lady, the courageous Catherine Helgus Burgum. Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. That was well-deserved, but I have to tell you, when you hang around with her and you see people come up and tell her their personal stories that they've told no one else, then you start to understand the impact that Recovery Reinvented has had the last 8 years. It was just as recently as trick-or-treating at the governor's residence. We were outside on that sunny but a little bit brisk day, and a mom and dad came up with 3 little kids, and the mom pulled Catherine aside, and I figured, as I've seen 1,000 times, the conversation was happening. And she was someone who'd lost custody of her kids, had interacted with criminal justice, and she said that her mom took her to Recovery Reinvented. She came that day, and she heard Catherine and the other speakers that day, and that was the day she began her journey of recovery, and there she was, reunited with her family and her kids and her husband. And the message there, I think, for any of you that know someone is struggling with a disease of addiction, there's always hope for recovery. And that's part of the message that Catherine brings. So, again, thank you, Catherine. Our budget recommends increasing behavioral health supports by an additional $37 million over the current 2-year budget. So there's dollars in there already, but this is a step up. We've got to keep investing more. And this includes a $9.8 million for youth stabilization and treatment, combined $10.5 million increase for Free Through Recovery. Really, that program is really working in conjunction with DOCR. And then, of course, we launched in 2018. We got Community Connect, which was launched in 2021. These two successful programs provided care coordination, peer support, and recovery support to over 14,000 North Dakotans in an incredibly cost-effective way. When we started here 8 years ago, there was a huge shortage of anybody in our state to provide counseling. We've trained over 1,200 peer support specialists. They're using their lived experience to assist others on their journey to recovery and wellness. Since the first opioid treatment program in the state opened in 2016, we now have 4 programs that are serving 1,125 individuals. We recommend in the budget increasing funding by another $3.5 million for the hugely successful substance use disorder voucher. That's created opportunities for 8,500 individuals to access treatment from private providers. Programs are working. Thank you for your support. We got more to do. In closing out the financial section here, our executive budget and the next administration starting point, we've got all kinds of funds. We're going to have an ending balance larger than the one we started, so there's going to be plenty of dollars left over here. You guys don't have to fight over A versus B. You can fight over how big should the ending balance be. But one thing that we should think about, when bonding in the right interest rate environments is a really smart, cost-effective thing to do. We know that. And we recognize that our key generational projects that need to move farther down the line, when we push these things out and we stretch them out over a decade, we always get trapped up by inflation and cost changes. When we get large projects done, we protect our communities faster. We take care of our citizens better. So I'm going to wrap up with a budget proposal with an opportunity. This isn't in the budget, but we have an opportunity to leverage our strong financial position. We can go out and borrow money at low interest rates. And if interest rates continue to drop, in some cases, we have an opportunity then to fund and complete some of our biggest road, water, air, and facility needs. And when we do that, I can tell you, as my involvement with the Water Commission, for example, if we take the big projects off the table, then when the little communities come in, we can say yes to just about everybody, and then the bonding can take care of the big ones that we know that we have to do. So if bond rates make financial sense, it's an economically sound tool, and we should think about doing that. And that frees up capacity in both the general fund and the resources trust fund for other projects. And you could do more of other things with bonding. We're providing a framework for a $1.5 billion bonding package, and if the puzzle pieces fit at the end of the session, you could decide to do that versus doing a portion of these projects over time out of SIF. So you have 2 paths. It's not an either or, but you'll be able to make the decision about what's the best path forward. The bonding package would support significant progress on the 4-laning of Highway 85. It would propel the Red River water supply project forward. That would help us prepare for not only catastrophic drought, but also, like I said, stake our claim to that Missouri River water. Because others are coming for it. There's a proposal from the West Coast to build a pipeline from the Missouri to the Colorado. I'd say establish our water rights now. Let's get moving. The package would also complete the Mouse River flood protection procs, help defend Minot and area communities up there. Someone likes that. Some former sandbagger likes that. Ensure that much needed airport improvements are happening in the Fargo, Grand Forks, and Dickinson. And lastly, this package would fully fund the rebuilding of the Missouri River Correctional Center, and it would not just rebuild it, but it would expand it, increase bed space. When we increase bed space, we can get people out of the penitentiary and out of Jamestown into a lower security environment, get them sooner working to integrate back into the workforce. So there's plans there. That's in our budget to move that thing forward. The bonding would take the total amount. But so by moving those forward, the state would even be better positioned for the next generation. As I move to closing, I wanted to say that I've always worked to deliver on my promises, and I did deliver that I was going to talk as long as I wanted. So that was, I've got that in my favor. But if you can remember that far back, I talked about at the beginning of this address about scarcity versus abundance. And recently, leading a North Dakota trade and investment mission to the Republic of Korea or South Korea, we had an opportunity to see firsthand a stark example of what scarcity and abundance looks like on the other side of the world. During that mission, we witnessed the freedom-loving people of South Korea. This is a democracy that for some of you, your relatives fought for, that America fought for their freedom. They have 52 million people living in South Korea in half the size of North Dakota. 52 million people in half the size of North Dakota. They have to import close to 70% of their calories every week to feed that population. They can't raise enough food for 51 million people in a space the size of having. They have almost zero oil and gas production. They have no energy security, and they have no food security. And yet they're prospering because of their innovation economy. It's a robust market economy. Some of the world's largest companies that are there are Samsung, LG, POSCO, all of these companies. They've got an incredible UAS network that's there. In terms, over 700 UAS companies, all drooling about the fact that we've got a test site that's about 1/4 the size of their whole country. They can't even fathom that. I mean, they're testing drones in like Walmart parking lots. They look at what we have. They look at our food. They look at our resources. We have what they dream about, the security that we have. And then across the line, an artificial line, the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, communist North Korea, a brutal totalitarian dictatorship. They have 20% more land than South Korea, but they've only now have half the population, 26 million people. Their GDP is about $600 per person in North Korea. South Korea is 33,000. 33,000 versus 600. Everybody in North Korea is essentially a prisoner in their own government. No economic freedom, no freedom to found, no internet, no future, prison camps for political prisoners. In the South Korean capital of Seoul, we visited the impressive War Memorial Korea that they built about 25 years ago. People in South Korea, they revere the United States. They know that they would not have their freedom. They know they would not have $33,000 a year of GDP per person if it were not for the American soldiers that came there and fought for their freedom and fought back up to that line. We had an opportunity they've got the North Dakotan people who died, the North Dakota serving on their separate plaque by state. The same list that we have out here in our own Veterans Memorial here. So I had an opportunity with the First Lady and our delegation to go through a solemn formal ceremony of laying a wreath on behalf of the families of North Dakota for people that gave the ultimate sacrifice in that war. And it struck me that, even today, 71 years after signing the armistice that ended combat, South Koreans remain genuinely grateful and understand the sacrifices made by America and its allies so that they may live free. I think some of them understand it better than people in our own country. And it reminded me of what I always have known, which is the United States is the greatest country in the world. And within that great nation, North Dakota is truly the best of America. Of course, here we're blessed with abundant God-given resources. We've got this rich soil that nourishes our crops. It feeds and sustains our livestock, keeps our farmers and ranchers on that land generation after generation. Our clean water, our flowing rivers, over 400 beautiful lakes that are stocked with amazing fish from our incredible game and fish. The rich mineral deposits which we have, which go beyond just coal and oil and gas, but the rich mineral deposits that we have, including the rare earth minerals that yesterday China blocked from coming to our country. And the resources that we use to fuel our tractors and our combines and keep our lights on and our heaters and our air conditions, which allow us to live comfortably here. But most importantly, of course, the greatest resource that we have in our state, and we all know this, it's the hardworking, resilient, exceptional people who called North Dakota home. North Dakota's 135-year evolution into an incredible ag and energy powerhouse for the nation and for the world. We saw this in South Korea. They look at us and they're like, wow, they've got 800,000 people and they're producing 1.2, 1.3 million barrels of oil a day. They think we're like some kind of little chiefdom tribe, oil tribe here. They can't believe it. They see that we're leading the nation in a dozen crops. They can't believe that. And you know who is one of the number one buyers of U.S. beef? South Korea. Who's the number one importer of U.S. natural gas? South Korea. You know who would like to do more investment in North Dakota now after that visit? South Korea. We met with companies on a Thursday that called Commerce the next Monday, and within 2 weeks had sent 12 people here to look at sites in North Dakota. They knew about Texas. They knew about Georgia. They had no idea that we had water, we had energy, we had low tax and low environment. They had no idea. And when they heard about it, they're like, holy cow. And you guys permit stuff and get stuff done? Some of these projects will have incredible generational impact if we can land them. But I mean, I'm telling you, and then we could end up with a South Korean UAS conference. We presented in front of a group of that association with 750 members, and like 25 of them were ready to come over right away. Like, let's go. We got to come test our stuff here. So we just have to recognize every North Dakotan not just should feel pride, but we have to grow in our understanding of what we've accomplished. We have to grow in our confidence that we have here in North Dakota what the world wants. We have to grow in the understanding that we actually have the best ideas, not good ideas. Sometimes we have the best ideas in the world about how we should move our communities and our people and our economy forward. And we should be proud of what our citizens have accomplished and what this legislature's accomplished. But for most of all, we should also feel gratitude. For 8 incredible years, Catherine and I have greeted every day. We get up with gratitude. And that gratitude starts with the opportunity to serve you, the citizens of North Dakota, as governor and as first lady. We've been rewarded through our travel here across the state and around the country with a deeper and deeper sense of love and appreciation that we ever thought possible. For this exceptional place, a place where we were both born, a place where we became a family and raised a family together, and a place where we decided to embark on an immensely rewarding journey into public service. This work, which we know, which we've done the last 8 years with our team here, we've rooted that journey in the 4 values of courage, of curiosity, gratitude, and humility. And it's been fulfilling beyond measure. And when we think back at our 141 years ago, Theodore Roosevelt came through Bismarck, and he was on his way to the place where the train ended by the Little Missouri in western North Dakota. And he stepped off that train as an Eastern dude, and here in the time in the Badlands, he embraced what he called the strenuous life. He transformed himself from an Eastern dude to a rough and tumble cowboy, a cowboy that went on to found the Rough Riders and change himself and transform the whole country. Theodore Roosevelt famously said one time that far and away, the best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. So to this, the 69th Assembly, I would say, you are doing that work worth doing right now. You've made a decision to jump into the arena. You've decided to run and to be part of the debate. You've decided to bring your curiosity and your humility and your courage and your gratitude to your work here in these chambers. And when you do that, You're doing that meaningful work now. You've got an opportunity. You've got an opportunity to etch yourself into the history of our state. No other body has been presented with the opportunities that this one has. No other body has been presented with the kind of revenue and foundation that we have here. Our state's never been stronger. Our future's never been brighter. And I want to thank each of you for being part of this success. And thank you for giving this opportunity to serve. And I want to say, God bless you, God bless North Dakota, and God bless the amazing United States of America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Burgum, for those remarks, and more importantly, for your 8 years of vision, leadership, and service. Thank you. Will the escort committee come forward to escort the governor and First Lady out of the chamber?